In this video, we are going to look at ways that students are encouraged to compare halves, quarters, and eighths in order to work with addition statements. So some students might be able to look at halves and eighths and automatically visualize the relationship between both. So in this case, multiplied by 4, 2 times 4 is 8. But for other students, it'll be really beneficial to think about the fractions visually. So in the eighths chart that we have below, each large rectangle represents one whole, or it's equal to 1. And we can use these charts in order to work with the addition statements. So in the first one, for example, I have 1/8. So if the whole is divided into 8 pieces, each piece is equal to an eighth. And then I want to add 1/2. So a half of the whole, or the large rectangle, I can represent this way, and that represents 4/8. So the equivalence that students need to recognize here is that a half is equivalent to 4/8. So the question that we're really looking to solve is 4/8 plus 1/8, which is 5/8. In the second example, students will recognize that a quarter of my whole is equal to 2/8. And the sum that I'm looking for is 3/8. So I'll color in 3 small squares. And the question I ask to students is, what's the difference between a quarter, or 2/8, and 3/8? And the eighths charts allow students to really visualize that the difference between the two numbers, which I've colored in green, is 1/8. Now, once students are comfortable making those comparisons, they can start working with the fractions 10 question sets. They can use whatever strategy they want in order to find either the sum or the missing addend. So in this case, what I'm going to do is change everything into improper fractions. So my question will become, what plus 3/2 is equal to 7/4? If students still need help with this steps, you can look at previous videos that I've posted. And then I'll compare them using the same denominator. So I'll modify my equation again, and I'll compare quarters and quarters. So 3/2 is the same as 6/4. Again, the students can use the eighths chart seen earlier in this video, or look at some of the strategies from adding fractions step 2 in order to find equivalent fractions. And the difference between 6/4 and 7/4 is 1/4. Once students are flexible with these questions, there are a few other types of questions on the website. So fractions 10a, students just flip a card, get two numbers, they can either add them together, find which one is larger and by how much, or you can use the perimeter placemats that are found with the adding decimals questions. There are also 2 activities, like the one on the right here, where students need to roll a 20-sided die or 2 10-sided die, and it'll give them 2 fractions to work with. So for example, if a student rolled a 14, they would get number 2 would be 3/4. And if they rolled a 2, they would get that number 3 is 9/8. And then they would have to work to find the missing addends. Thanks for watching. There are practice questions available on my website.